Hey everyone, welcome to this full Tailwind CSS 4 course for beginners. In this video, you're going to learn Tailwind CSS by building a complete modern portfolio website from scratch, and we'll even deploy it online for free. You don't need any prior Tailwind experience. If you know basic HTML and CSS, you're good to go. By the end of this video, you'll understand how Tailwind works, how to build responsive layouts, and how to create real-world UI components, not just theory. Here's what we're going to cover in this course. First, I'll explain what Tailwind CSS is and how it's different from traditional CSS. Then we'll set up Tailwind CSS 4 from scratch. After that, we'll build a full portfolio website with a navbar, heroes section, projects grid, and a contact form. Finally, I'll show you how to deploy your website online using Netlify and get a live link you can share. So, what exactly is Tailwind CSS? Tailwind CSS is a utility-first CSS framework. That means instead of writing custom CSS classes, you style your elements directly in your HTML using small utility classes. Tailwind doesn't give you ready-made components like buttons or cards. Instead, it gives you low-level building blocks that you can combine to create any design you want. Let's compare this with traditional CSS. Normally, you create a CSS file, write a class, and then apply that class in your HTML. For example, we write a card class with padding, background color, and border radius, and then we use it inside the HTML. This works, but as projects grow, managing CSS files and naming classes can become difficult. Now let's do the exact same thing using Tailwind CSS. Instead of writing a CSS class, we write utility classes directly in the HTML. Each class does one small thing: padding, background color, border radius. There's no separate CSS file, no class naming, and no switching between files. Everything is right here in the HTML. This is the core idea of Tailwind, utility-first styling. Every class has a single responsibility. For example, text for XL controls font size, font bold controls font weight, and text green 500 controls color. You can change the design instantly just by changing the class values. Once you get used to this approach, it becomes extremely fast and flexible. Tailwind is also mobile-first by default. That means styles apply to mobile screens first, and then you add breakpoints for larger screens. For example, this text is smaller on mobile, and becomes larger on medium screens and above. Tailwind's responsive classes are very readable and easy to understand. Another powerful feature of Tailwind is how it handles states like hover and focus. Instead of writing separate CSS rules, you simply prefix the class with hover. This makes your styles easier to read and maintain, especially for interactive elements like buttons and cards. Now that you understand the core concepts of Tailwind CSS and how utility classes work, it's time to build something real. In the next section, we'll set up Tailwind CSS 4 from scratch and start building our portfolio project step by step. Now let's move on to the project setup. In this section, we'll prepare everything we need to start building our portfolio website. We'll create a clean project structure, install Tailwind CSS 4, and make sure everything is working correctly before we start designing. For this project, we'll keep things simple. We'll use HTML, Tailwind CSS 4, and a small build setup. You don't need any framework like React or Vue for this project. I'm using VS Code, but you can use any code editor you prefer. First, let's create a new folder for our project. I'll name it something like Tailwind Portfolio. Inside this folder, we'll create an index.html file. This will be the main file where our entire website lives. Now let's install Tailwind CSS 4. I'll open the terminal inside this project folder and initialize the project. Then we'll install Tailwind CSS and generate the configuration files. Don't worry, I'll explain each command as we go, and you can pause the video and follow along. Once Tailwind is installed, let's test it quickly. I'll add a simple heading with a few Tailwind classes. If the styles appear correctly in the browser, that means everything is set up properly. Now we're ready to start building the actual layout. In the next section, we'll start with the website layout and global styles, including fonts, colors, and spacing. Now that Tailwind is properly installed, let's start building the base layout of our website. The goal here is not to make things beautiful yet, but to create a solid structure that will improve step by step. First, let's focus on the body of the page. I'll give the body a background color, text color, and smooth scrolling behavior using Tailwind utility classes. This will immediately give our site a clean, modern look. Now I want to define a consistent width for our content. Instead of letting everything stretch across the screen, we'll use max width utilities and padding. This makes the website look much more professional, especially on large screens. Each part of our website, like the Hero section, Projects, and Contact, will live inside its own section. I'll give each section enough vertical spacing so the content feels breathable and easy to read. One of the biggest advantages of Tailwind is how easy responsive design becomes. We'll use responsive prefixes like SM, MD, and LG to adapt our layout for different screen sizes. I'll start using them now so you can see how they work in real time. Perfect. Now, Now that our layout foundation is ready, it's time to build the navigation bar, which will allow users to move smoothly between sections of our site. In the next part, we'll build a clean, responsive navbar using only Tailwind CSS, no JavaScript required. Now let's build the navigation bar for our portfolio website. This navbar will be clean, modern, responsive, and built entirely with Tailwind CSS. No JavaScript, no libraries, just utility classes. I'll start by creating a header element at the top of the page. Inside it, I'll place a container to align the content properly, just like we discussed earlier. On the left, we'll have the logo or name. On the right, the navigation links. Let's style the navbar using Tailwind classes. I'll add padding, background color, and a subtle shadow to separate it from the rest of the page. Small details like this make a big difference in how professional your site feels. Now I'll add navigation links like home, projects, and contact. With Tailwind, hover effects are incredibly simple. I'll add color transitions so the links feel interactive and smooth. For smaller screens, we don't want the navbar to feel cramped. I'll hide the navigation links on mobile and only display them on medium screens and above. This is done using responsive prefixes like hidden MD, flex. Because we enabled smooth scrolling earlier, clicking these links will smoothly scroll to each section. This creates a polished user experience without writing a single line of JavaScript. Perfect. Our navigation bar is now complete, responsive, and visually clean. Next, we'll design the hero section, which is the first thing visitors will see when they land on your site. In the next section, we'll build a modern hero section with typography, spacing, and call-to-action buttons using Tailwind CSS. Now let's build the hero section. This is the first thing people see when they open your website. A strong hero section immediately tells visitors who you are and what you do. We'll keep it clean, modern, and fully responsive using Tailwind CSS. I'll start by creating a section with full screen height using MinHScreen. Inside, I'll center everything vertically and horizontally using Flexbox. This is a great example of how Tailwind makes layout extremely simple. Now let's add the main text. I'll start with a large heading for my name or title. Below it, I'll add a short description explaining what I do. Notice how easy it is to control font size, spacing, and colors with utility classes. To make the hero section more dynamic, I'll highlight important words using a different color. This helps guide the user's eye and adds personality to the design. Now I'll add call-to-action buttons. One button will link to the projects section, and another will link to the contact section. We'll style them with padding, rounded corners, and hover transitions. To make sure the hero section looks good on all devices, I'll adjust text sizes for different screen sizes using responsive prefixes. This ensures readability on mobile without extra CSS. Finally, I'll adjust spacing and alignment to make everything feel balanced. Small spacing tweaks can drastically improve the overall design. Great. Our hero section now looks professional, modern, and responsive. Next, we'll move on to the project section, where we showcase real work using cards and hover effects. Let's now build the project section using Tailwind's grid system and interactive hover states. Now let's create the project section. This is where you showcase your work, your skills, and what you're capable of building. We'll use a responsive grid layout and modern hover effects, all with Tailwind CSS. I'll start by creating a new section and give it enough vertical space using MinHScreen. Inside, I'll add a heading and then a grid container for the project cards. Each project will be inside a card. I'll make the card relative so we can position elements on top of it later. We'll add rounded corners, overflow hidden, and a shadow to give it a clean look. Inside the card, I'll add an image to represent the project. Then I'll add an overlay that appears when we hover over the card. This overlay will fade in smoothly using opacity transitions. On the overlay, I'll place the project title. I'll also add small technology tags like React or Tailwind in the corner. Absolute positioning makes this very easy to control. To make the cards feel more interactive, I'll slightly scale them on hover and smooth everything with transitions. These subtle animations make a big difference in perceived quality. Let's quickly test this section on different screen sizes. Notice how the grid adapts automatically without writing any media queries. That's the power of Tailwind's responsive utilities. Perfect. Our project section is now clean, interactive, and fully responsive. Next, we'll build the contact section, so visitors can actually reach out to you. Let's finish the portfolio by creating a modern and simple contact section. Now let's build the contact section. This is one of the most important parts of a portfolio, because it allows people to actually reach you. We'll keep it clean, simple, and professional using Tailwind CSS. I'll start by creating a section with enough vertical spacing so it doesn't feel cramped. Inside, I'll add a title and a short description inviting people to get in touch. Now I'll add a contact form. We'll include inputs for name, email, and a message field. Everything will be stacked nicely using spacing utilities. Let's style the inputs using Tailwind. I'll add padding, rounded corners, and focus styles so they feel modern and accessible. Focus states are important for usability. Now I'll add a submit button. We'll style it with a bold background color and hover effect to make it stand out. Even small interactions like hover transitions improve user experience. Let's test this contact section on mobile and desktop. Notice how everything stays readable and aligned without any extra CSS. Tailwind handles this beautifully. Now I'll do a final pass over the entire site. I'll check spacing, colors, hover states, and consistency. This step is crucial for making your project feel professional. this point, your portfolio is fully complete. You can now deploy it using services like Netlify or Versal. We already saw how to deploy and get a live link for your site. Congratulations, you've just completed a full Tailwind CSS 4.0 project from scratch. You learned how to structure layouts, style components, build responsive sections, and deploy a real website.